Vasilevsky had like a cup of coffee in the NHL with the Calgary Flames and then went over to Europe. Kenny Agostino kept having his career killed and then resuscitated like 4 different times, and every time I kept seeing him pop up, he would be on like the 4th or 3rd line. Nothing real special there. Had also a cup of coffee with the Flames. And that first round pick, people were thinking, yay, we got a first for Iggy. It was a late first. Everyone knew Pittsburgh was going deep that year, and it was going to be a very late first-round pick. I believe it ends up 26th or something. It was in the high.
So talking about the trade, I think it said Austin Reese, or whatever his name is, could have been there. Alrighty.
With the Boston Bruins and Colorado Avalanche. Like, this was still a superstar when the Flames traded him. Yes, they waited too long, but by no means had his value dropped so drastically to 2 unknown college prospects and an extremely late first-round pick. That was horrible. Horrible. From the second the trade was announced, everyone in Calgary cringed and knew, man, did we ever get bent over here. And now, there was a whole other era of star players that came after that. And the Flames got nothing for Johnny Gaudreau. They gave a first-round pick attached to Sean Monahan for the Habs to take him. And they lost Mark Giordano in the expansion draft for zilch. And to top it all off, yeah, they got a lot of stuff back from Matthew Tkachuk, but now there's people in Calgary saying that this was a bad trade for the Flames. I've even seen people on Twitter saying that it's the worst trade in Flames history. I don't think it beat the Iginla one, but because of Huberdeau and even Uyghur to a certain extent, even though he picked it up, their boat anchor contracts would be what would turn this to a really bad trade for the Flames. I don't agree with that. But still, it's like every time the Flames have a star player and they have the chance to move them, somehow this player, just Chris Angel, disappears from the Flames without a trace and leaves them with nothing somehow. Every time, pretty much. Except for Joe Nieuwendyk, who got the Flames Jarome Iginla in the first place. So it's just awful that it went down that way, because if they get some cornerstone pieces or even some just really solid pieces in that Iginla trade, it's just a completely different era of Flames hockey. Maybe even some core pieces that would still be here today. Who knows? So it's just such a shame that the best player in franchise history was let go for peanuts. And it's just so sad from a Flames fan perspective. And the fact that history is repeating itself from Flames fans, it's just sad, to be honest, is the only way I can really describe it. But hey, let me know what you think about the Iginla trade 10 years later now. I want to hear your thoughts on the matter. It's just, every time I look at it, I shake my head. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
I might watch every video, but I'd rather not
their memories
go
erased by the backfill. They lost loved ones, family, and all their possessions. So one hand is raised to the sky to pray for them.
As McKinnon added one more hat trick to his season goal total, and the Buffalo Sabres came just one win away from making the playoffs, we now have the NHL's 2023 playoff bracket set. We're going to briefly cover that today. I'm going to give my early, very short thoughts, but if you guys want a full breakdown of any specific series before things get started on Monday, please let me know. As a note,
I think the Florida Panthers versus the Boston Bruins is going to be 4-2. I think they could hold it up in the series. Alrighty, that's my
doing a bracket challenge on the channel. Initially, I said it was going to be Office Pool Junkie. It's actually going to be NHL.com. So far, we've got 1,000 people signed up. The winner will get an NHL jersey. If for some reason you want me to sign, I'll do that, but I also don't have to. If we get to 2,000, I'll add another prize. Anyway, let's talk playoffs. So, starting in the West, we have, for the first time in NHL history, the Seattle Kraken making the playoffs, and we're throwing them right in against defending Stanley Cup champions, the Colorado Avalanche. Even without Landis Cog, we know the Avalanche are hot right now. This is a series I think they have. Next in the West, Dallas, Minnesota. Dallas, in my opinion, has really been overachieving this year. Very exciting team to watch with young Robertson, and I'm excited to see if the Otter can reclaim some of that playoff magic from last year. The other recent expansion team is back as well.
I have a name for Connor Bedard, and I hope you guys use it. It is the next great one. It's just a name that fits.
Well, Vegas, they of course missed the playoffs last year, but have a history of playoff success. In their first season, they actually played Winnipeg, and Vegas won in 5 games to go on to the Stanley Cup final. In a rematch of last year's round 1 matchup, we have Edmonton once again playing LA. This should be very interesting. Last year, I thought Edmonton had this one unlocked, and if you're new to hockey, you are about to see just how different things get in the playoffs. Skill can really be interfered with as physicality and, honestly, energy come to dump.
The LA Kings brought a 4/3. Wait, what was it? What did it say NHL stats? I meant to do games. Playoffs, okay. We can take that. 3-1 lose versus the Panthers, and the Wild lost 3-2. Today we're gonna get a Rangers versus. I watched the Islanders versus Hurricanes. I watched a little bit of the Panthers versus the Bruins, like the last period. I did not watch the Wild versus the Stars or the Kings versus the Oilers. Oh, my head got big. Tomorrow we get to see the Lightning strike the Leafs, and then we get to see the Rangers versus New Jersey, and then the Jets versus the Golden Knights. Will the Jets fly past the first round of the playoffs, or will the Golden Knights come out with a win? Will the Avalanche release the Kraken into the second round of the playoffs? And will in game 2 will the Islanders put the Hurricanes on their island? And will the Kings become the king of the Edmonton Oilers? Well, we'll find out in the playoffs. I I should push notify me. Notify me. Done already. Which of these teams will you school? Wait.
Come to dominate. Everything looks so simple on paper. The second you watch your first NHL playoff game, you'll realize that all means nothing. Going over to the East, first off, we have Boston and Florida. These are two very different teams. Boston, somewhat methodical, all around really talented. Florida, still this year, a bit run and gun. Speaking of that, in their next matchup, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning, another repeat from last year. I bring up Hart because Tampa's missing a lot of their team, including Palat and one of my favorite players, Ryan McDonough. McDonough, who's now on Nashville, is like a postseason king. He puts everything on the line. He's just an absolute monster. The Leafs have their own playoff beast, though, as Ryan O'Reilly was a late season addition, and I'm very curious to see how he factors into the playoffs. Not only will he bring that physicality, but he's a former Stanley Cup winner with the St. Louis Blues. With other players like Matthews now focusing a bit more on defense and other acquisitions by the Maple Leafs, I actually think this is finally the season that they make it to the second round. But who am I kidding? We'll have to see. Next up, we have Carolina versus the New York Islanders. I saw somebody write that this series is like if someone made in a lab the most boring hockey series possible, and I tend to agree. The Islanders, however, are scary. Goaltending in the playoffs can be absolutely everything. I saw Henrik Lundqvist carry so many subpar Rangers teams to the conference finals or beyond. Last year, we saw Ottinger almost insane for Dallas against the Flames. Ilya Sorokin is easily one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. That's the one matchup, if I were a Boston fan, I was really not hoping that they'd get. Carolina, though, I don't know. I'm curious to see how they perform in the playoffs. I'm glad the Rangers weren't playing them, and that takes us to our final matchup, the Rangers against New Jersey. This is an interesting one.
I'd like to talk about Austin Matthews going to another team, because it could happen.
The Devils have been somewhat streaky this year, at times very, very good, a few slower parts of the year. But I mean, the same can be said of the Rangers. It feels like they haven't really been firing on full cylinders yet. Kane has been good, but not amazing. But I'm also guessing there was a little bit of fatigue from just being locked into the playoffs for so long and many of these games feeling a bit meaningless. Even as a Rangers fan, one of the things I'm most interested about is to see how this young Devils team fares in the playoffs, especially Jack Hughes. He had an incredible year this year, 99 points in 78 games. He's lived up to his first overall draft pick status. But like I said, things are just different in the playoffs, and the Rangers have a ton of playoff experience. This core went far last year, and they've added Tarasenko and Kane, Stanley Cup winners. So I'm curious to see how this turns out. I will, I think, be doing a full bracket at some point just to give you guys my thoughts. I may also bring Brandon on, who does some of the